So notes page, notes day 3, hyperbolas. There's a major mistake right off the bat because this is not, you mark that out, we messed that up. Because the two different formats, like for the ellipse, the two different ones had A and B who were first. Which one was first? For hyperbolas, what matters is which variable comes first. So the real other equation is y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1.
Oh, just switching the top ones.
So a is always first, b is always second. Will you tell me how is it different than the ellipse equation?
The numerators.
Oh, you made the A one.
There's a big minus sign in there. That's what makes it a hyperbola, is that minus sign as opposed to a plus sign for the ellipse. So the minus sign is for the hyperbola, plus sign is for an ellipse. For an ellipse, A was always bigger. For a hyperbola, A is always first. A still controls which one is like the main axis. So the main axis is whoever comes first. So if x comes first, then this is a left and right hyperbola. If y comes first, then it's an up and down hyperbola. So which one comes first is more important for a hyperbola. For an ellipse, it's which one was bigger, right? Which denominator was bigger determined which way the orientation
X
was.
Is up and down, y would be side to side.
No, other way around, right?
No.
If x comes first,
What it looks like.
it's left and right.
Yeah.
If y comes first, it's up and down. Because y is the up and down variable, x is the left and right variable. So let's jump in and sketch some graphs here. So a lot of the stuff we already know. What's the center? -1, 3. There's a lot of parallels with ellipses here. So yes, the center's at -1, 3. How many left and right do you think we should go? 3. Left and right, 3. How many up and down should we go?
5.
Now, so far, this is like the same as an ellipse, right?
Yeah.
If we just drew the oval in there, it'd be an ellipse. But we can't draw the oval in there because this is a hyperbola because of the minus sign. Did y'all do these in algebra 2?
No, we never did this.
Okay. So I know what this is going to look like. I know it's going to be a left and right hyperbola. In fact, it's a really good idea to maybe sketch that at the very beginning to make sure that your picture looks like that and not an ellipse or an up and down hyperbola.
How do you know? Because the x is first.
Because the x is first.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
X is first, so it goes left and right. So instead of making an ellipse out of those, we're going to make a box out of those. I know, it's like a box. What? Box isn't part of our graph.
Is that actually part of the graph, or should we do it in dotted lines?
Officially, it should be dotted lines, but it doesn't have to be. And then that box, the diagonals of that box, again, officially dotted line. Sketch in the diagonals of the box.
Oh, what? This is like
Those diagonals are, you want to guess what how they help? They're sort of the outline of the ellipse.
It's like
there's a fancier math word. starts with an A.
Asymptotes. Like
They're the asymptotes of the, not the ellipse, but the hyperbola. So they'll help us graph, give us a little more defined shape to our
Does their point have to be in the box?
hyperbola.
Or on the edge of the box?
Those vertices are on the box, yes. Yeah, my left one was good, my right one was
See,
So it's a little harder than drawing an ellipse. It starts the same way, put the 4 points on there, but then instead of a circle, you make a box, make the big X, and then sketch in the hyperbola. Oh man, I better call on someone very carefully. I trust to do this one.
don't pick one.
So I'm going to pick Ryan because I trust him to get this correct. Very, very carefully tell me what the center for this hyperbola is. Good.
Oh.
Do you see the easy way to make the mistake there?
I just about did.
Because the X's and Y are out of order, and so it's real easy to say, oh, the center's at 4, -1. Like, no, be very careful because the Y stuff came first. So -1, 4. -1, 4. So 4, is that 4 up and down or 4 left and right? Why is it 4 up and down?
Because it's the way.
Because it's under the Y. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And the box, you think.
What do I do with the 36?
Left and right,
Good. Left and right, 6. 6 is the square root. Left and right because it's under the X.
And then we gotta detect the cross thing.
The crossy thing. Okay, again, you stop here, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm doing a hyperbola or an ellipse
No,
yet.
it's at uh-huh.
Y came first, so it's up and down.
Uh-huh.
You need to do the box and the asymptotes and then the hyperbola.
You really feel the graph.
It makes you want to say, bah,
Huh? Humbug.
bah. You know why I say bah?
Box. Your sheet.
Because you should graph the box and then the asymptote and then the hyperbola. Bah. I don't know, I haven't graphed mine yet. So box,
It's not exactly like
0, 0.
hyperbola, or excuse me, box, asymptote. So use your ID if you need a straight edge. Box, asymptote, now hyperbola. Ooh, careful. Or is this left and right or up and down? How do you know it's up and down? The Y's first. So this is a really wide hyperbola.
This is such like
I kind of understand this.
So
I did the
a lot of similarities with ellipses, but obviously some key differences here.
I did this before.
Questions on B?
No.
so hyperbolas are just like ellipses with like 5 extra steps.
I kinda.
Oh, he's doing it on the worksheet.
Crystal, how about the center of number C, letter C? 0, 0.
It's not vertical.
Well, careful.
Yeah, because it's not a
Vertical hyperbola.
So, Haven, what do I do with this 9?
9.
Okay. So am I going to go left and right 3 or up and down 3? Left and right 3. Although, yes. Caitlin, how about this 9? What do I do with that? Up and down 3. Okay, it's not a circle though, right? Because you got to do the box, asymptote, hyperbola. Box, Asymptotes, I guess I should say, plural. And then be careful on that last step. It's real easy to just sketch them in one way or the other. But think carefully, is this left and right or is this up and down? Left and right. Because the x came first.
I feel like the graphs are getting messy.
I mean, if you use a straight edge, you'll be okay. Thank you. The vertices of the hyperbola are the points on the box that are on the graph. Right? So it sort of looks like there's 4 vertices, but only 2 of those vertices are actually on the graph. So in 1A, let's see, our vertices, the points on the box on the graph would be those 2. And then you just got to go kind of count and figure out where they are. Looks like -4, 3 and 2, 3. No, the U would be like, no, just a list of both. What's that?
It touches the box there.
It touches the box. Yeah, I didn't do a very good job on that one on the right. They're supposed to touch the box. Vertices in 1B. There and there. So -1, 8 and -1, 0. I think that makes sense. That's what a vertex of a parabola looks like. So it's kind of the same thing. Just make sure you list the correct 2.
Does it matter which one comes first?
Does not. Does not matter which one you list first. All right, let's see if we can figure these out without graphing the whole thing. Or maybe we graph a little bit before we try it. Well, the center, I think, is not too bad. Kyle, how about the center for number 4?
4, 6, -9.
Good. 6, -9. Vertices. There's only 2 of them. Are the vertices going to be left and right, or are they going to be up and down? They'll be left and right, because this is a left and right hyperbola. So there's my center at 6, -9. So how many left and right am I going to go for each vertice? 8. So if I go right 8, that puts me at 14. And if I go left 8, I'll change my x coordinate. 6 minus 8 would be -2. Right? 6 plus 8, 6 minus 8.
But why would it stay the y's as a -9? Never mind.
So the y's would be the same for the vertices. Now for the other points on the box, you'd change the y but not the x, but it doesn't ask for those, so we don't have to worry about it. Now again, if you need to graph the whole stinking thing to come up with those, you can, but if you can slow down and think about things, you can sort of halfway graph it and think about it and figure out what the missing pieces are. All right, Will, how about the center for number 5? Well, just look at number 5 on the screen. What's the center for number 5?
That's just 0, 1.
Very nice. I was hoping that since you were only halfway paying attention, you'd mix those up. But you were paying attention enough. Again, when y comes first, it's real easy to mess up the center because you're used to x being first. Let's see, it's up and down. You know what? I'm going to hit pause, see if you can figure out what those two vertices are. So it's an up and down hyperbola. I'll need to go up and down 9. If I'm going up and down, that means I better change the y coordinate though. So 9 up from 11 would put me at 20. 9 down from 11 would put me at 2. And again, if you need to be a little more specific on how you draw it, then you certainly can. If you need to graph it a little more in detail to figure out how this thing is laid out so that you can get the vertices, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can be careful and kind of avoid that. All right, second page of the notes, second and final page. Every hyperbola has two foci, just like the ellipse have two foci. The two foci lie outside of the parabola. So ellipses and hyperbolas, one's in, one's out. But the better way to think of it is that the graphs always wrap around the focus. Like it's the focus of the graph. Whether the graph is like inward focused and the foci are on the inside, or the graph is outward focused and the foci are on the outside. We can skip this stuff, but look at this. C is still the difference from center to focus, but C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So that's the opposite of the ellipse. So that messes people up as well. So the ellipse is a minus sign for the C squared. The hyperbola is a plus sign for C squared.
All these equations memorized.
Yeah, because this is the point. So
Yes.
everyone's greater than one.
Yes. Well, I mean, do you have to have them memorized, or can you look at them and know what's what? And then the only equation is C squared is either A squared plus or A squared minus B squared. Number 5, find the foci of the hyperbola with this equation. Well, let's start with the center. So the center, Jamil, what's the center of number 5? Negative 3, 1. Good. Tori, is this left, right, or up, down?
Left, right.
Good. This is left, right, with the hand motions as well. I like it. So that means my foci are going to be left, right as well. So there's my center. There's my focus. It's C away. Am I going to be changing, before I even know what C is, am I going to be changing my x coordinate or my y coordinate?
X.
Oh, I heard y and I heard x. It's left and right, so the coordinate that controls left and right is the x coordinate. So I'll need to change my x coordinate. C squared is 100, so C is plus or minus 10. C is the distance to the focus. So if I start at negative 3 and I go plus 10, that put me at 7. If I start at negative 3 and I go minus 10, that put me at negative 13. And again, if you need to draw more of it, you certainly can, but if you're careful and you think about things, you can skirt your way around the full problem. Save some time. Number 6, find the foci of the hyperbola with that equation. Well, we need to start with the center because the foci are sort of based off of that. So, Landon, what's the center of number 6?
-8, 5.
I cannot fool anybody today on the center thing, which is good. Julia, is this hyperbola up and down or left and right?
Up and down.
And how did you know it was up and down?
Because it's y minus.
Yep, y came first, so it's up and down. So that means my foci will be up and down. So, Aaron, which coordinate is going to change to adjust up and down?
Y.
The y's. So I know I'm going to be changing the y with plus or minus c. Now I need to figure out what c is.
11 and -1.
Let's see, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Uh-oh. Square root of 45.
This one's on next.
It is an X first.
Square root of 45. Square root of 45. Yes, you're just like shaking your head like, nope, 45 doesn't have a square root. Like, well, it does have a square root. It's not a nice square root.
Oh, I'll show you my head it will.
3 square root of 5. Do you remember on the ellipses, there's another little shortcut here.
You can leave it as that.
I can leave it as that and just write it as 1. So -8, comma, I want to change the y value. So is it -8, comma, plus or minus 3 root 5?
No, 5 plus or minus 3.
Yeah, I got to start with 5 and then plus or minus 3 root 5 for my foci. Because that distance, didn't draw this very big, from center to focus is equal to c.
Oh, 9 is 5 is 4.
So I was already-
You just simplified that one.
I was already up at 5.
That was really
I just needed to go up and down 3 root 5 some more to get to the foci.
So what did the 11 and -1? What is? Or am I just totally wrong? Or is it just
Well, so if you're going left, so there would be something with 11, because you'd go, no, because you'd go, if you were graphing the whole thing, you'd go up and down 3, left and right 6. Then the box, then the asymptotes, then the hyperbola, and then you could, but you don't need to do all of that if all it asks for is the foci. Like if you're thinking about where the vertices are, those are up and down as well, but those would only be up and down 3. -8, 5 plus or minus 3 would be the vertices, if that's what you're thinking about.
I'm just confused how you got to the part with the square root.
So we're good with
Oh,
this
yeah,
line.
that's
Square root of 45 is 3 root 5. All right, 7 and 8, more algebra. Graph the hyperbola. Well, this is going to be complete the square stuff. I'm going to, shoot, I shouldn't do that. Let's group the x stuff. Group the y stuff. Move that 64 out of the way. This is complete the square again, but there's a twist on it. Let's see, we're going to half it, square it, add it here in a minute. But before I do that, I need to factor out the 9.
Do you have to, or just make it simpler?
I have to.
Oh, because that.
Well, I have to, and I don't really want to take half of 36 and square it and add it to both sides. I could. That would just be a really long way around. What about from the y stuff? What do I want to factor out of the y?
6 and 4.
-4. Let's be very careful here. So that would be a plus 8y. So half of 4 is 2. Square it, we get 4. add it to both sides, but I wrote plus 4, but how much did I add to the left side? 36. Then on the second one, b over 2 is 4. Square it, we get 16. So I wrote plus 16, but what did I really do to the left-hand side? I subtracted 64 because of the minus sign.
So it would be parentheses.
So 9, x plus 2 squared, minus 4, y plus 4 squared. Remember, I can factor quickly because all I'm doing is using b over 2. I'm not really factoring. I'm just copying down whatever b over 2 is. Equals, 36.
Divide everything by 36.
Yep. Again, a lot of similarities with an ellipse. So x plus 2 squared over 4 minus y plus 4 squared over 9 equals 1. So still complete the square. Still got to be careful about exactly what you're adding, but in this case, subtracting from one side.
Is this just this equation, or is it a pattern? I think I may have noticed it. So if it just switches the number that's outside the front onto the bottom of the other side.
Not always.
Not always.
Not always. Yeah, Olivia?
I thought that we were subtracting them and the 4 at the beginning of the second part was negative, so that it would become a negative 9 on the bottom.
So I'm going to leave the negative right there. If you put a plus here and a minus down there,
It's the same thing.
it's the same thing. It doesn't look like a hyperbola, but it's the same thing. So I would leave the minus out front and reduce the 4 and 36 to a 9 at the bottom.
But then what happened to the other minus? Did subtracting it into negative?
No, because we're subtracting this whole chunk of stuff.
Wait. I think it should be, because it's a negative 4 to begin with, but you're subtracting the chunk. It's a double negative.
No, because I'm subtracting 64, so I put negative 64 on the other side.
No,
The
very front
negative
where it's
4y,
negative
the
4.
first step.
Okay, so I take out a negative 4.
But
you
you
have to
should be
subtract it.
subtracting that from the whole equation. So it shouldn't be.
I wrote plus 16, so I'm subtracting 64.
No.
Here.
So the one where your left finger was just that
Yeah,
negative
so
4.
at the
and
Yep.
Shouldn't there be a minus in between
There
the
should
two
be there should be a minus right
also.
there, because it's your
No,
equation
this
is-
minus 4 squared, I just move things around. That minus goes with the 4 squared, so I just put it right there.
If that 4 squared negative 4 wasn't there, there should be a minus there, correct? Right?
I have a minus there.
Yeah, but
So
it's
yeah,
not
if there's not a minus there, there needs to be a minus there, but I have the minus there.
But that minus is from the negative 4, right?
Yeah?
So where's the other negative go?
Where's the other minus? Because you need to subtract.
I am subtracting, that's why that negative is there.
No, that's the negative's here because it's a negative 4.
Either way,
But it'd be a double negative.
like, you're trying to tell me that those are different things. That's the same thing.
But if it was a positive in the column that's given, wouldn't it still be negative?
If this was a positive?
Yeah.
Well, if that was a positive, this wouldn't be a hyperbola.
I see.
It'd be an ellipse.
So it comes, okay, so it starts negative. I thought you had to subtract it to make it negative.
The negative was there given to me.
Okay.
That's what made it a hyperbola. You guys, some of you are still not convinced. The center would be negative 2, negative 4. We'll go left and right 2. Up and down 3. And again, it's not super common, but it's somewhat common to get there and to sketch in the ellipse and move on to the next one. If you kind of lose sight of what you're doing. This is a hyperbola, so I need to do the box and the asymptotes. Left, right, or up, down? Left, right, because the x was positive. I could have told that. Well, actually, you can't tell that from the very beginning, so be careful. And then number 8. 8, we're going to see how you handle minus signs because it's a little bit out of order. I want the positive thing first, so I'm going to list the y squared first. And then do the x stuff because I want the negative stuff come second. So factor out a negative. That leaves x squared minus 4x. B over 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. I'm adding 9 to both sides. B over 2 is negative 2. Square it, I get plus 4, but what did I really just do? Minus 16. Whoops, that should be y minus 3 squared minus 4 times x minus 2 squared. This is like the last one, and you're all still messed up on the negative thing in here. Divide everybody by 4. Here's another one of those where the 1 shows up. And so you don't have to write it, but if you don't write it, it doesn't look right. So I would put that 1 in there. Again, it's not necessary, but for it to look like a hyperbola, it's kind of nice. Again, it's not necessary, but to make it look right, it should be there. But we're not going to have time to finish that problem, but the center is at 2, 3. It's up and down. So I know my foci and vertices will change the y coordinate, because that's the up and down coordinate. Alright, so you've got the worksheet. The assignment's the worksheet. Monday we'll go over some of the hyperbola questions. Ty? Yeah, sorry.